Hi and welcome back to another video. Today is going to be my first time branching off into booktube. I've contemplated making a booktube channel, and if I created a channel for every niche that I love, I would have literally 35 channels. So we're just gonna make a booktube playlist on here, and you can expect more book style content on this channel. So today I figured I would recommend some books if you are somebody who wants to get into reading but you don't really know where to start. So I wanted to make things a little bit easier and just recommend my top picks to you guys. I am not a patient reader. I need something that is very captivating the whole time. You don't have me in the first 30 pages. This is not gonna be a good relationship between us. With that said, I'm gonna give you some great book recommendations to get started that are quick reads. And if they're not as quick and they're longer, they're going to be so juicy the whole way through. I will also make sure to put different links for all of these books in the description box, and it'll also be in my Amazon storefront at any time with the title Books to Get You Started. The first book we're going to talk about is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This book is really crazy and has a huge plot twist that I don't think really anyone saw coming. This book is about a woman named Alicia Berenson who is just wildly in love with her husband, but comes home from work one day and shoots him 5 times in the face, where he is tied and bound with wires to a chair. A super heinous act. And after this event happens, she goes completely mute and ends up in a psych ward. Nobody has been able to get her to speak for years at this point. So she refuses to talk. She's not giving any explanation. She ends up in a psych ward. And after a couple of years, people sort of just forget about this case, and it kind of leaves as this mystery as to why did she do it. And then a criminal psychotherapist named Theo comes into the picture, and he's very captivated by her. He's like, let me try and work with her. I think I can get her to talk. I think I've got the right approach, the right strategy, whatever. And everyone's kind of like, all right, dude, you're not the first one to think that you can get her to talk. This is narrated by Theo, but we also have access to Alicia Berenson's diary throughout the book. Very interesting. Did not see the ending coming. I will say I love thrillers, and I was definitely satisfied with the way this ended. I wasn't as obsessed with it the way that TikTok was, but if you're just trying to get into reading, I could definitely see how you would leave this book feeling dumbfounded by the way that it ended. All right, next book is called The Book Thief, and this is by Marcus. This book came out in 2006. It's an older one. A lot of people had to read this in high school. It is an amazing book. This book is unlike one that I've read before. This book is narrated by Death, or the Grim Reaper, and it takes place during 1939. It's Nazi Germany. It's the Holocaust. So we're following the life of a girl named Liesl Memminger, and she's on a train heading to her foster home. On the way, her brother dies very tragically. But this haunts her because she's expecting to have this new life with her brother, and now he is very quickly taken out of the equation. While his body is being buried, she finds a book in the snow, and the book is called The Gravedigger's Handbook, and this is the first book that she ever steals. I don't really want to give anything away, but you're following the life of a young girl growing up in a foster home who's growing actually incredibly close to her foster family, and they've taken her in and really loved her, but they end up hiding a Jewish man in their basement. Following this really heartbreaking time through the lens of death, watching a young girl grow up. She's growing close with the young Jewish man that's hiding in her basement, also trying to be aware of the raids that are beginning to happen in Germany because the Russians are coming to bomb them. It's so crazy, and I feel when I read the inside of this book, I was I don't really understand, but along the way she starts stealing all these books, and all these books become a part of her story, and that's all I can really say. This is one of my favorite books I think that I've ever read in my life at this point. The next book is called The Midnight Library. This was the first fictional book this year that made me fall in love with reading again. Quick trigger warning before we dive into this. This does cover the topic of suicide, but it is so beautiful the way that Matt Haig was able to turn such a delicate, tough topic into a beautiful chance to start fresh and really tell a story. This follows the life of a girl named Nora Seed, who lives a pretty monotonous life. It's very ordinary, and she feels kind of unwanted and unaccomplished. She's had a failed engagement. Her parents have passed away, and her brother despises her. She's just screw this. I don't want to be here anymore. I feel so unhappy in my life. Somewhere in between life and death, she enters this place called the Midnight Library. There is someone there who basically tells her, you've made it to the Midnight Library. In each of these books are different lives that could have played out for you. So this person tells her, you know, you've got access to all of these different lives and you get to open up and read them and see what happens. That's all I'm gonna say. She opens up the books and let's just say we go through a different version of her several times, different versions of herself that could have played out. Kind of makes you question all the different ways, the butterfly effect of life, of how one decision can change everything. And there's so many lessons to be learned in this book as well. Highly recommend it. I mean, Matt Haig, chef's kiss. This is my favorite book I think of all time. This next book is called The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I finished this book maybe 2 months ago at this point, and I'm still missing these characters. If there's any book that you're gonna grab after this, please try to read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So this is following the life of, you guessed it, Addie LaRue. It starts off in 1714, so this is kind of a historical fiction. She is desperately trying to run away from something that is happening in her life that she wants no part of. She's basically what she feels fighting for her life, and in the night makes a prayer to darkness itself. Darkness responds, and she says to him, I want to live. I have so much to live for. I have so much to do. What do I have to do that? And he says, okay, I can help you live forever. Yeah, just let's seal it with the kiss. And in a moment of desperation, she seals the deal. And in that moment, he vanishes into thin air. And as she goes on about her day, and she goes to her house and she realizes her parents don't remember her. None of her neighbors or friends remember her. So now at this point, she has made a deal with darkness to live forever. We follow her all throughout the 1700s, and we bounce between that time and all of her different lives through the 17, 18, 1900s, all the way to the 2000s, where she is in a hidden bookstore in New York City, and she is remembered for the first time after like 350 years. You will spiral into a chaotic story of love and kind of leaving your mark and your legacy in the world when you have no way to leave your legacy. She writes and it disappears. She paints, it disappears. In pictures, she's blurry. It is so beautiful. I will recommend this book 1,000,000 times over. Please read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Okay, next book we're going to talk about is also very, very widely acclaimed, and this is going to be Verity by Colleen Hoover. I was not prepared. I was not prepared for this book when I started it. This is a book where we're following a struggling writer who is basically on the verge of going broke. Her name is Lowen, and she gets a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to write for a very famous, popular author named Verity, who has been bedridden because she was in a very devastating car accident that has left her in a hospital bed. So in order to write this book, she needs to stay at Verity's estate with her husband and child because her office is there filled with all of her manuscripts for the book that she's going to be finishing. And in the process of reading Verity's manuscripts, she comes across, so in reading Verity's manuscript for the series that Lowen's supposed to be finishing, she comes across Verity's unfinished, unofficial autobiography where she finds just like spine-chilling stories of things that she's done, things that she's said, things that she's thought about doing. Lowen reads all of this and realizes that she's in this same house as Verity and begins to sort of question everything around her. There were moments in this book where I genuinely was scared. Like, I'd be reading it alone at night. Ryan might have not come home that night, like until a little bit later, and I was freaking spooked. Colleen Hoover did an amazing job writing this and making you really love and hate characters. It is a romance, which I believe is what Colleen is most popular for, but it's very much so a thriller, and like it's like 70% thriller, 30% romance in my opinion. The ending is something that I don't think anyone saw coming. There's just no way you could have predicted this, and there are teams questioning the ending, like, are you team manuscript or are you team Verity? I promise that's not a spoiler because I was like, what does that mean? I don't know what you mean by am I team manuscript or team Verity. You will know at the end, and if you read this, come back to this video and let me know what team you were. That is all the time I have for my books to start off with. Like I said, I will have all of these linked in the description box and in my Amazon storefront. Thanks so much for watching, and I'm so excited to be starting booktube. I hope you guys are just as excited about this as I am. Okay, see you guys next time. Bye.